I feel so relieved that I finally posted that hour-long Kaskade plot video a little while back. And with that, I introduced a few Lockémon, like Golgar. But for thematic reasons, I'll save their explanation for another video. Today, we're talking about the post-game legendaries, or ultrabeasts. To be honest, I wasn't originally intending on them being ultrabeasts, just sort of eldritch Pokemon from deep space, and I guess to a point they still are. They aren't quite as out there and wacky in their design as most ultrabeasts, but they are still certainly otherworldly. So let's go ahead and just go with them being ultrabeasts. And let's go over the origins and inspirations and the goings-on of all 6 of them. Yeah, that's this video. Sponsor time. Oh, and it's a good one. This is how you know it's serious. I'm bringing the microphone into shot, which means it's for real. This is probably the favoriteest sponsor I've ever done. I love tiny bits of food and liquid, but Americans tend to eat dessert for breakfast and then wonder why we're so sick and overweight. But no more! Low-carb, grain-free, and keto lifestyles are growing more and more popular, and today I'm sponsored by my dream come true, Magic Spoon. 0 grams of sugar, 14 grams of protein, and only 4 net grams of carbs in each serving. Also only 140 calories. It's just sweet enough without being sickly sweet, and as a type 1 diabetic with 24/7 blood sugar monitoring, I can see exactly how eating 2 servings of this impacts my blood sugar, since my body doesn't naturally reduce it at all. Here's how it compares to a generic American cereal. Magic Spoon is a miracle cereal for me. So seriously, to enjoy cereal guilt-free, click the link below and grab a variety pack, and be sure to use the promo code Lockstin at checkout for $5 off any order. Or go to magicspoon.com/Lockstin. I could talk about them for many minutes more, as you could probably tell, but you know, sponsors, you gotta put a cap on it eventually. Link below, coupon code Lockstin. The first of these Ultra Beasts is the common Ultra Beast, found even before the post-game. It's Orbtholod. Interestingly, they have always been in the Kaskade region, if you ask anyone about them, though photo, textbook, and fossil records for them seem to disappear around the end of the 20th century, as if they just suddenly appeared. Oh well, if you ask anybody, they've just always been here, and they've always been great, and it sure is neat and interesting how important people always have one. Oh well. So Orbtholod, all of these beasties really, but especially Orbtholod, pull from Lovecraftian horror, eldritch horror, a genre of horror that is, interestingly, out of all of the states, most popular in Oregon, and Washington is where it's the 3rd most popular. Perhaps it has to do with all of the rainy weather here. So, I wanted an Elder God-inspired super legendary of sorts, Ultra Necrozma tier, which is what led to the mind-flaying shenanigans that Endram-Odai causes, as well as Orbtholod's whole thing. Its name pulls from orb, like the magical wizard's orb, cephalopod, orthology, which is the study of words as it knows human language and can plant words into people's heads, and Elder God. Orbtholod, Elder God. Orbtholod is a psychic, dark-type, space octopus spider thing that floats. They can't take total control of minds, but they can make memories incredibly fuzzy, and give commands not through strict control, but through suggestion, as they reduce inhibitions. In the plot video, it was revealed that Tom Bezel's main mon is an Orbtholod, and perhaps not by choice. And while Tom is for sure a shady businessman, absolutely bordering on evil, his Orbtholod pushes him closer and closer to his own definitions of a monster. They do this for a reason. The Orbtholods are scouts for their master, much like Tomunk and Temunk are for theirs. The Orbtholods are trying to get the soul energy needed to open a portal to eventually get Endram-Odai through, just as they did in ancient times before being stopped by the ancient Great Thunderbird. They do this, clearly, through manipulating powerful people and Pokémon. Pulling the strings, much like many Illuminati conspiracies or eldritch cults. Now, as for why an octopus, it should be fairly straightforward. Cthulhu is the most famous of the Elder Gods, and Mind Flayers also have octopus faces. And I also wanted to reference the tree octopus, a hoax-turned cryptid in the Pacific Northwest, and mix in some octopus spider elements in there too. It uses the orb inside its head to levitate and power its mind powers. They say getting someone to stare into the orb is what grants it access to your mind. And like any elder or wizard, it has a long beard made of tentacles. And its head is tall and pointy, like a wizard's hat. The glowing spots not only reference bioluminescent cephalopods, but also the lights, or dead lights, or fairy lights. Basically, the lights that people see because their brains cannot comprehend the true form of an eldritch entity. Also, before we move on, have you noticed that a lot of Cascadianmon reference mind manipulation and mind control? It's in part as a means of foreshadowing the events of the post-game, and just because the mystical Mount Spectral, with its ability to open the hearts, minds, and souls of those around it, would clearly have an impact of the evolution on local Mon. Even the Great Thunderbird. The Great Thunderbird fights off the majority of them with its immense power, and even commands some to leave. And they listen. Now, considering Orbtholod has tricked everyone into thinking it's always been here, it wouldn't have a UB name, much like the Light Trio. And now, let's skip over the Cataclysmic Quartet and head straight for Endram-Odai. I wanted a Cataclysmic post-game. Pokémon has already referenced Ragnarok on a few occasions, and I happen to be a bit of a Bible nerd, so I immediately jumped into the Bible's end-of-the-world prophecies, mostly from Revelation. It's fitting too, as the US, especially Eastern Oregon and Idaho, are extremely Christian. But with this, I didn't want to just reference the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. 1, because that's way too easy, and 2, because some interpret the white horseman as Jesus himself, and I don't want to get that direct, you know? And then I remembered an end-of-the-world conspiracy theory from a few years back. One that legitimately creeped me out a bit. According to the Bible and astrology, Armageddon will happen on September 23rd, 2017. And that is because this recently discovered Red Dragon Nebula that the government and Google don't want you to know about because they're controlled by the devil is passing by some constellations in exactly the right way that the Bible says that it will, and that will trigger Armageddon. It was actually a pretty eerie read, much like SCPs, but of course, astrology is bunk, and we're all still here. And the Bible also says nobody will know when Armageddon will happen, so like anyone that claims that they figured it out, like, do you really think you're smarter than God? How faithful are you? Anyway, it is still one of my favorite biblical predictions gone awry. And plus, this nebula is pretty creepy, honestly. So I decided we needed to make that the big bad. This face has been watching the Earth for who knows how long, biding its time, staring, with its piercing green eyes and red body. And of course, because it's the red dragon of Revelation, it needs to be dragon type, and we combined that with fairy type. Together, they sort of embody infinity energy as a whole, space and magic as a whole, even. And also, Dragonmon tend to be more masculine and Fairymon more feminine, and I wanted to reference the magnum opus in alchemy, the greatest work, which, in alchemic illustration, is symbolized by a hermaphrodite on top of a dragon. The male and female perfectly combined, the physical and spiritual perfectly combined. After all, whichever alchemist completes the magnum opus will become immortal and godlike. Some even claimed they would be equivalent in power to the Christian God in some cases. And perhaps power like that is the goal of this mysterious UB infinity, aka Endram-Odai. So that name, it's an odd one. I wanted to invoke alien and eldritch naming schemes for sure, but I also wanted it to softly reference a few things like the magnum opus. Endram-Odai, same sort of syllables and the end of magnum, beginning of opus. Endram-Odai, magnum opus. I also wanted it to sound a bit like Andromeda, Andromedai, Andromeda. Andromeda is our closest neighboring galaxy, and also the Andromeda constellation in Greek myth tells the tale of a woman being eaten by a sea monster. Some depict this sea monster as a dragon, while others depict it as a whale or giant fish. Sometimes both. And also, that very same constellation in the Far East is known as the Fairy Constellation. It's so perfectly fitting of its type and origins and all that. And if you didn't put it together already, that Greek tale of Andromeda, it's very similar to the tale of the Red Dragon in Revelation. A red dragon is threatening to eat a woman and her child, and also, rather than breathing fire, it spews water like a raging river. Perhaps another connection to sea monsters, eh? This red dragon in Revelation is said to have 7 heads with 7 crowns, so Endram-Odai has 7 sets of eyes, each with little ears of sorts, sort of representing the crown. The red dragon also has 10 horns, so 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, 10. Perfect. And to top it all off, well, space whales are already a trope of sorts in a lot of media, so perfect. But what is its true goal? Well, who knows? But it can't be good. Does it intend to consume the planet? To eat human minds and souls like a rapture except you get eaten? It for sure has some sort of connection to that. And looking at it gives humans migraines. Perhaps because that's all it takes for it to start eating away at your mind and memory. Much like how Chandelure burns away at nearby souls. It eats away at memory, and also does that glitchy texture thing, right? Sort of like messing with the game's code. Messing with its RAM. End RAM. Or die. And then we have what are essentially its generals, UB Harbinger and UB Cavalry, later known as Pestilation and Revylon. These two are not unique in their space. Like most of the Ultra Beasts, there are plenty of them in their own worlds. These ones just happen to be the only ones here in Kaskade. They are each based on biblical beasts that arrive in armies in Revelations chapter 9. Revylon pulls primarily from these armored horse-lion snakes, and Pestilation is primarily the swarm of locusts with scorpion tails. There are all sorts of ways different people have interpreted the way they look, and this more broad nature of their depiction is why I wanted to picture them as Ultra Beasts, or Pokémon. So let's start with Pestilation. The name clearly references pestilence, which is a horseman of the apocalypse, but this is the only one of them that references them. Pestilence also has a lot in common with locusts in the Bible anyway. Now we mix pestilence with revelation and scorpion and pest and even elation, which means happy and exhilarated, and look at that face! Does that look like the face of mercy to you? It is a poison flying type with the Steelworker ability, and it's what happens when you flip a scorpion upside down. The big claws are its feet, and the stinger is the head. When referring to these locusts, Revelation says they were not given the power to kill people, but only to torture them for 5 months, and the agony they suffered was like that of a sting of a scorpion when it strikes a man. Men will seek death, but will not find it. They will long to die, but death will elude them. As such, its signature move, Adulterate, working name, maybe, horribly poisons the target. It's just like the move Toxic, but stronger. The catch being, this poison damage cannot reduce the opponent's HP to 0. Now, Revylon, UB Cavalry. It is based on the horse-lion things which are said to breathe fire, smoke, and sulfur. So here we gave Revylon a rocky body of sulfur too, and made it ground fire type. Its name combines revel, which means to greatly enjoy oneself, revile, meaning to insult angrily, revelation, lion, and Babylon, a city of great importance in the Bible, and one that is surrounded with lion-related myth. Revylon shoots superheated beams of liquid sulfur from its mouth and its other mouth as well, that one being on the end of its tail. And it gets some of its facial features from Fu Lion statues, and its color palette is even pulled with how Revelation describes the beast's breastplates. Fiery red, cool blue, and yellow as sulfur. Its signature move is Sulfur Beam, a special ground-type attack that has a chance to burn, and smells like eggs. Now, the other two Ultra Beasties are special and one of a kind, and they are You Be Silence and You Be Sacrifice, also known as Leoseace and Lamentu. Leoseace is a leopard, or leopard. More specifically, a male serpapard, a Mesopotamian and later Egyptian mythical beast, essentially a leopard with the neck of a serpent. Strange. And in case you don't know, Mesopotamia is where you'd find Babylon. The serpapard symbolized great power and would often be shown as guardians to the kings and pharaohs. Another mythical leopard is Zhang from China, a large, wise, and mysterious five-tailed leopard spirit with a powerful and magical horn on its head. And we take these mythical beasts and combine them with the biblical beast of the sea, which is depicted as a leopard with 7 heads and bare paws. So, Leoseace here is water dark type, cunning and mysterious, sneaky like a soft flowing stream. Bear-like claws protrude from its paws, and its long serpentine neck allows it to see all around itself silently with ease. And its 6 serpentine tails each have a mind of their own, though none can even compare to the cruel intelligence of the main head, which also has a single horn. Leoseace can disappear into mist and play cruel tricks on others before eating their souls. His signature ability, Soul Passage, grants him the strongest stat change of the Pokémon on your team that fainted just before you sent it out, as he's manipulating and learning from their soul. And his name pulls from leopard, sea, seance, as it manipulates souls and spirits, and cease, as in to cease to exist. Like you after every aspect of your being is consumed. And then, Lamentu. Lamentu is a fate-sealing female lamb Ultra Beast. It is psychic fire type for reasons that I will now explain. She is based on the Lambs of Revelation, one in Chapter 5 and the other in Chapter 13. Both technically different lambs, but we're combining their elements. One is a lamb with 2 large horns and that speaks like a dragon with fiery breath. And the other lamb looks as though it had been slain as a sacrificial lamb and has 7 horns and 7 eyes. And so, we gave Lamentu 2 large ram horns and 7 eerie-looking eyes. The red coloration begins at the neck, like the sliced neck of a sacrificial lamb, and it also is a color fitting of the fire type. Choosing 2 large horns rather than the 7 of the other lamb was influenced by Lamentu's connection with Aries, the first in the zodiac, a sheep with 2 large horns. Horoscopes are used by many to foresee the future, fitting of her psychic type, and she also pulls from Mesopotamia. Mamitu is the goddess of destiny and fate. Not much is known about many Mesopotamian gods and goddesses, actually, and she is one of them. But we do know that she is depicted as a sheep-like human, perhaps a woman with ram horns. And it's said that whatever she decrees is irrevocable, for she is fate. She does not foretell the future, but creates it on a whim. And so, on Lamentu, we also made the fairy goat-like ear tufts resemble the way Mesopotamian and Akkadians would depict wings on various creatures and gods. Her name pulls from lamb, lament, which is a passionate expression of grief or sorrow, like mourning the loss of a loved one, and Mamitu, the Mesopotamian goddess. Her signature ability, Expiation, will trigger when she faints, and it heals the next Pokemon you send out of their status conditions and 50% of their max HP. Essentially Lunar Dance, but a bit weaker, because it's an ability instead of a move. As a group, these 4 may be reluctantly working for Endram-Odai. Reluctantly? Well, yes, who wants to end all life on various planets throughout the universe? So did they strike a deal? They help the whale and in exchange their homeworlds are safe? Or are they being commanded by the very parasite that attaches itself to Endram-Odai? You see, even Endram-Odai is normally just a spirit whale, perhaps from a higher plane, pure infinity energy, ethereal. But this deep red draconic parasite latched on and hasn't let go, and may never, until you defeat it, that is. And all you really do then is beat that parasite down enough so that the spirit well can take control of its mind again. And even take control of the parasite. Ho ho! A reversal of roles. Which is why it's okay for you to catch it now. It's no longer a civilization eater. It's quite grateful to you for saving it. Yay. Now, you may think that these stakes are too high for Pokemon, but like, what is Ultra Necrozma then? It's gonna eat the sun. That also ends all life on the planet. Anyway, those are the origins of this cataclysmic quartet and related mon. They are biblical ultra beasts, eldritch abominations, alien Lockémon. Let me know which are your favorites down below, and also be sure to check out the artists we commissioned for these because this group of mon turned out especially cool. Until next time, never stop using your noggin.